it's you can champion for a cause. You can champion for a true meaning of what you're looking for, and to work hard is not just to get enough, but really to crone your craft and work towards that as well. So as we go through the day, and we pay ode to the Denver Broncos and what could have been, what almost was, I do want to remind you that John Elway lost 3 Super Bowls before he finally won his last 2, and he is one of the greatest champions in the state of Colorado. And when you think of champions, even as he's working with the Denver Broncos now, a lot of what he means being a champion is the 3 losses he went through in the 7-year period or 8-year period that he went before he finally did win a national or a Super Bowl championship with the Denver Broncos. Now that we have our epigenetics set and ready to go, I'd like to invite up our first speaker today. Keith, if you'd come up and give us your speech.
Thank you very much, Greg. And I know in some clubs they will ask the evaluator of the speech to read the objectives of the speech. So, John, would you do that before I get into the speech, please?
Sure, absolutely. Okay, Keith is working from the manual storytelling, and the objectives for this are to learn the elements of a good story, to create and tell an original story based on a personal experience. And his time is 6 to 8 minutes.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Quick question.
Please.
Because it doesn't have the 6 to 8 minute marker on there.
6, 7, 8.
6, 7, 8.
Green, 7, yellow, 8, red.
Cool.
Thanks.
I work with that. Thank you.
And I can even share a little something before I jump into my speech about the DNA of a champion. I've had the luck to see a number of world champions, public speakers, and by world champion, that means the person who decides from Toastmasters to take part in the club contest, and then go on to the area contest, then go on to the district contest, then go on to semifinals, then go on to finals, and be the top person in all of Toastmasters. And they only choose 1 per year who go through and wins this contest. We just recently had, during officer training, Lance Miller, who won the world champion a number of years back, and he talks about how to train club officers. And one of his first points is about success and how to get there. And he says, everybody talks about how I'm a world champion public speaker. But what they don't talk about is that I'm a 13-time loser at it. And his point is, it's not that you have a different path for success and failure. They're both on the same path. It's just hitting the point hard enough that you either break through that wall, get over that obstacle. It's hitting the same direction, but getting to that success. So it's an interesting message that he brings to us. Remember, it's about trying, it's about going through the process. It's not just about, hey, you do it once and you succeed. Almost nobody does that. Everybody has to work hard at it, and almost everybody has to go through a certain amount of not succeeding to be able to get to that success. My son Lev, you don't love me. You don't care about me. These are words that I heard from him about 2 years ago. He had come to live with me a couple of years before. He had been living with his mom since we had split up. Probably about 3 or 4 years he lived with her. And he's always had some challenges in school. When he was young, he had a lot of difficulties that they put all sorts of labels on. ADD, ODD, obsessive defiance disorder, and hyperactivity, and all these other labels about what he might have a problem. Information processing disorder, strange things that said why he didn't get along, why he was having trouble. But the interesting thing is every time they tried to work on just the one, that one seemed to not be such a big deal, but all the others became so overwhelming they couldn't even work on the one thing that they were trying to work on. He was a rambunctious kid. There were times where he would have fits and I would have to hold him so he wouldn't flail and hurt himself. after a number of years, he learned to control himself a little better. But he still had some trouble in school. I homeschooled him for a while with his mom. That was a challenge, but he did pretty well with some things. He was doing amazing with math. He would go through years of material in months. But homeschooling didn't work out so well for him. I wound up working a lot of hours, and his mom decided that putting him in front of the computer with the self-study stuff was the way to do it. No, that was not the way to do it. He actually went backwards from that. So he's had a lot of trouble with this and a lot of different definitions. In high school, there was some question about whether or not he had a type of autism called Asperger's. When you think about autism and Asperger's, one of the best well-known ones is the Rain Man character. 5 minutes to Wapner. He almost seemed like he had a little bit of that, not quite fully getting it, not always able to engage with people when he should. Yet, when they tried to test him for autism, for Asperger's, the first time they said, well, there's no way he has Asperger's, he laughs. He's got jokes. People with Asperger's can't do that. Later on, they said, well, maybe that's true, but he's not showing any of these other signs, because they had treated all these different little ones separately. They sent him to a socialization class, where he learned to be a little better with socialization, although he still doesn't always understand when he's being too much in people's faces. But he came in, moved in with me. He was angry at me. He blamed me for a lot of problems he had. And yet, he wanted to live with me instead of his mom. Why was that? I asked him. He said, well, I want to do better in school, but I'm taking too much time trying to take care of my brothers. I have to get up early, get them ready for school, and by the time they get out to school and on the bus, I'm late for school. Seemed like a pretty good reason for me. I certainly wanted to help him do better with the schoolwork. So he came to live with me and he started doing his schoolwork. He did better. He passed more classes than he did, and yet there I was checking his grades at the end of high school. You're not passing this, you've got an F here, you've got a D here. Now I could have been one of those dads that got on his case. What do you think you're doing? You can't do this. You're going to have tons of punishments. But I didn't yell at him. Not about that. There were a few times that we did have some heated words, but rarely. When it came to things like school and his future, I would talk to him. I would say, which way do you want to go? If you don't continue and do better with school, you're going to be a high school dropout. You're going to have very few options. You'd have to try and get a GED at least, and that's a lot of studying. Or you can continue on with high school and then get your high school diploma, and then you can get a low-end job. Or you can work on getting better grades and go on towards college. He wasn't sure about spending more time in school. He didn't like school very much. But he also didn't like the idea of working low-end jobs. So he said, I'm going to work at getting a 4.0. He told me this for 3 years, which was after he had already been in high school for 2 years, so he was in high school an extra whole year to graduate. But he did graduate. Wasn't the best grades, but he did graduate. And every time I saw those grades slipping, I would say, which path do you want to choose? How are you going to solve this? What are your choices? This is your life that you're choosing to do. I'm here to help you. And I would always put it to him. There are 2 paths here, and you can choose this one or this one. Are you going to work on this math homework by yourself, or are you going to let me help you with it? If you choose to do the math homework by yourself, I expect you to show me it, where you are with it in an hour. It didn't always work perfectly, but at least it put the choice on him and the direction on him. He rarely chose to work with me at that point, but he did choose to work with me. And then there was that time standing in the kitchen, and I was asking him about his grades, and he got angry at me. He says, "You don't love me, you don't care about me, you don't take care of me." And I spent an hour talking to him, telling him about how I didn't have a choice to leave the house and the marriage. But when I did, I was there for him. I was there every weekend, I was there for dinners, and he had the choice whether or not to come over. I made sure to stay right nearby. I made sure to be there so that he could move in with me if and when he chose, because I thought he would. I've learned there's a lot about him that reflects on me. Whether that's biology or epigenetics, thank you, epigenetics. I'm not sure, but it certainly suggests a lot of biology there. He graduated high school, and he worked for a year at Walmart. It's a lower-end job because that's what he did out of high school, but he needed some time to realize what it's like working in the real world. And he stuck with that job. Most people would have quit the kind of job he had at Walmart because it was basically a janitor. But he stayed with it. And now, he's in college. He's starting off slow, 2 classes a semester, so that he can work through it. But when I come home now, this 400-pound, 6'7", 20-year-old boy comes up and hugs me. He helps out around the house. Yeah, sometimes I still have to ask him to take out the trash. But if I need him there to take care of his brother, he's there for it. He's happy living with me. He's moving ahead with his life. I'm proud of where he is. He still has a lot of steps to go, but he's smart. And considering that he's on a very similar path that I took growing up, I see he's got the potential to do a whole lot. And I'm looking forward to seeing what my son Lev can do with his life. Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you.
Lev reminds me of what it means to be a champion or a hero in your own life, which means it's not just that one moment when you win the Super Bowl or you win that big title. It's the work that goes into the everyday, the decisions that